Okay, I think you might be good to go.
Greeting. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to our virtual Open Iftar 2021 brought to you by Ramadan Tent Project. My name is Huda and I'll be hosting this evening. We have an exciting event planned with our speaker Omar Salha, the CEO of Ramadan Tent Project. But before we get started, I'd like to thank our media partners of this year, Islam Channel, and give a welcome to those joining us on Islam Channel's YouTube and Facebook. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. I also wanted to thank Arts Council UK, whose help has allowed us to continue our work this Ramadan, all of which is available on our website. Our work this Ramadan is supported by Islamic Relief, our charity partner. You can check out the incredible work Islamic Relief does in iruk.co/RTP. So our events are interactive, so we'd encourage anybody to hop onto the Zoom meeting. And for those who feel comfortable, just turn on your cameras so we can see you. And just a quick run on the tech, at the bottom of your screen or in the more section on your mobile phone, you have the reaction option. So you can show us how you feel in real time. You also have the raise hand option. So if you want to contribute to the discussion or ask any questions, one of our backend team will unmute you. And you could also use the chat. We'll be checking that. So just to begin quickly, I just want to know how your Ramadan's going. Iman, how's your Ramadan going?
Alhamdulillah, it's been going good so far. It's obviously very bittersweet, like it's the end of the month and you don't want it to be over, but also want it to kind of be over because your whole sleep patterns changed and you're looking forward to I don't know if you feel this way, but I just feel like my sleep cycle is completely gone off the rail. So I'm looking forward to not going to bed after Fajr.
Yeah, that's true. Do you have anything planned for Eid?
Not really. Just spending it with my brother and sister and my sister-in-law and niece. So looking forward to that. But beyond that, there's not really much. I think we had this conversation earlier where I feel nervous going out. So yeah, I think I'll stick to my small circle.
Yeah, that's fair. I had that. What about you, Ryla? How's your Ramadan going? How do you feel about it ending? Do you have any plans for Eid?
Yeah, like Iman said, it's a bit bittersweet because, looking forward to a normal sleep pattern, whatever that means. But it always seems like it's a bit of a mountain to climb because we're at the start of the month, and then before you know it, we're reaching the end. It always seems to come around so quickly every year. And as for Eid, yes, looking forward to it. Started some Eid prep today, as I mentioned before, which was got a mixed bag of disasters, but getting there. It's all edible, and that's all that counts, really. That's what I was like, even if it doesn't look that great.
As long as it tastes good, that's all that matters. I feel like I don't know if I'm the only person that feels like this, but I feel like this Ramadan, I actually felt the whole month go, like the whole experience and everything. I feel like most times when you're physically going to work and you have all these physical commitments, you don't feel it as much.
Yeah, definitely. I was just saying before, I feel like I've got the month's fatigue has just landed today. I just feel really, really, really tired today. I really could was ready to go to sleep in the middle of the day. Unfortunately, work doesn't allow that, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think Sarah's also saying that she's looking forward to her sleep pattern being restored again.
Yeah.
I feel like my sleep pattern, over the end of the month, I still want to do qiyam and whatever, but I feel like my brain has just decided that we're going to go back to normal now.
Completely.
Yeah. How about you, Adnan? How's your Ramadan going? Do you have any Eid plans? How do you feel about it ending?
I am looking forward to ending it, and not in the way that you expect it to sort of end. Obviously Ramadan's going to be over. It's going to be the last month's gone, but at the same time, I don't know. I feel like similar to everyone else's as well. That they've said it's been tiring. I don't know why. It's just been really tiring. And I think it was probably because of the different cycle, the different life, the different timings of everything as well. And I don't know, maybe just being indoors all the time, I think that might have had a big impact as well. So I think I'm just looking forward to just something changing and something moving again. Whether that's Ramadan or whether that's, I think, just things changing, maybe that's probably what it is. But in terms of Eid, I'm working. So we'll probably have a family meal and that sort of stuff at one point, but most of it's going to be work, sadly. I was going to actually ask you yourself, how's your experience been this Ramadan, especially with sort of being part of Ramadan Tent Project as well, and the sort of the experiences from that?
So in terms of just volunteering, I feel like because at the start I was doing it in Sweden, I would actually break my fast in the middle of the Ramadan Tent Project. So it felt like there was this time disconnect, but I feel like that's what I like about being back in London. I don't have that time disconnect, but it was definitely a really good experience. I felt like I was celebrating Ramadan with more than my small family. I kind of had this like whole community I was celebrating it with. And I also got to meet all of these different people that I never ever speak to outside of Ramadan Tent Project. So it was definitely a unique experience. I feel like I wouldn't have had outside of this. How about you?
No, that's really good to hear, because I think similarly as well. The first time I did it, and we have Omar here as well, who'll speak a little bit more about Ramadan Tent Project and give us a bit of an insight as well. But my first year, a couple of years ago now, last year, it was same thing. I think just being able to connect with different people, speak to so many different inspiring talks as well. But also, I think the cool ones we had as well, where you could just cook with Asma Khan, for example. So I'm actually trying to ring her right now. I'm trying to book my birthday meal, and she's like rejecting all the calls because apparently too many people booked. But like things like that, it is one of the best things I think I've definitely felt about being part of the RTP group, and also the family as well. RTP genuinely becomes a family when you're doing the shows, when you're hosting, when you're working very closely, and also remotely. Like, you genuinely do feel part of a group. And I just want to say, I think that's one of the key things that you can genuinely get from being part of RTP for sure as well. And I hope, inshallah, that's how you felt this year and for the years to come as well.
Yeah, I definitely did. I definitely think like with the volunteers, you always have like the support of a bunch of people all the time. So it's a pretty amazing experience. But I also think that you do get to speak to people and learn about something new every night. Whenever I'm hosting, I'm learning about a topic that I probably wouldn't have come across outside of this. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but I'm just really curious. It's a bit of off tangent, but have any of you guys taken the day off for Ramadan? Because I'm really curious how you approach this with the work, not knowing which day is gonna be the day off for Eid. Like, how do you go to your boss, be like, hi, I might need Wednesday or Thursday off? My brother took the day off today, and it turns out Eid's tomorrow, and he was so annoyed.
so
Mine are really flexible.
You
Mine have
can't even
always
take
been like
the
that.
day off tomorrow.
Yeah. Mine have always been really flexible. I think it's easier now because I'm self-employed, so they don't really care.
Yeah.
They're not paying me. But even before, my boss would be like, yeah, just let me know in the morning or in the evening as soon as you find out. So yeah, I guess it depends on who you work for. Personally, I've never had a bad experience of someone saying, no, I need you to be a bit more concrete on what days you want off. Generally, they've been very yeah, just let us know. We understand.
Yeah, I was just curious to know what everyone's experiences are, because in my mind, I was like, if I ever am in that situation, I'm going to just take 3 days off.
3 days.
I was just book those days off.
I actually had to discuss it with my supervisor. So we were discussing our dissertation meeting, and I just had to be like, look, it's a lunar calendar. I can't tell you when it is. It's somewhere in the middle. Can we just do Friday? Because that's a pretty safe day. And she was like, oh, okay. I didn't know about that. Just explained it a little bit, and she was fine with it. But I guess it's a bit different when it's an academic thing.
Yeah.
What about you, Adnan?
Yeah.
Similar as well. Yeah, I was so at workplace. I recently joined. I joined remotely. I think I'm probably the only Muslim in the company, so I really wanted to do some sort of presentation on what Ramadan is and why it's important. And to my surprise, they really it was very informative for them, which is really good to hear. And it was also, I think, just very inspiring in many ways as well. But the joke really was about, what day is Eid? And I couldn't answer it. I was like, you know what? The calendar says the new moon's on Wednesday, but, it could be Thursday.
And then the other side of the world, they always do it a day after.
Yeah, exactly. But
so it's the whole week. I need the whole week off.
If you have enough days, for sure, you get 2 weeks for Christmas, you might as well take 2 weeks off for Eid as well. But I think the conversation was the main thing anyway. It was informing, workplace that this could be it could be 1 or 2 days. I'm not sure yet. And then I think it just depends on your workplace as well, like Ryder said. But also, I've got deadlines, so I can't. I'd rather not take the day off, if that makes sense, because I want to. Yeah. It's extra work afterwards. But the informant and having that conversation, I think, is really important. You know, open that channel of communication and make it easy for them as well. They've just helped them understand.
I hope you dropped a link to the open iftar for them.
I did. I told them I was doing this on the side as well. A lot of them actually got in touch afterwards, which is really good to hear.
Oh, that's great.
Which brings us perfectly into our topic of conversation. So we've discussed community a lot over the last few minutes, and our theme tonight is community. And we'll be discussing it with our speaker, Omar Salha. He's the CEO and Chief Executive of Ramadan Tent Project. So how's your Ramadan going on? What do you have planned for Eid? And just talk to us a bit more about our topic.
Sure. Thank you very much, Iman and Huda, for the kind introductions. Really appreciate it. It's incredible. You know, the last day of Ramadan, for me personally, it's gone by incredibly quickly, too quickly for my liking. I don't know where the month has gone. I think my plans for Eid pretty much will be with family. I don't imagine us doing anything spectacular. We're still a little bit apprehensive with lockdown restrictions, so we'll probably spend some time at home and just sort of regain our energy. I think it was quite a long month, and I think it's just nice for us to sort of switch off from everything, from the outside, but from screens. A lot of screen time, so switching off from phone screens and laptop screens or TV screens, whatever it may be, and just sort of try and still, I suppose, maintain that spirit that we've had from Ramadan, which, you know, inshallah, we look forward to talking about this evening.
That's pretty amazing. I feel like over the pandemic we have actually had a lot of screen time. I do think it's like really good to just take a day off to switch off, think about that. So talk to us a bit more about the community. Like, how did you start Ramadan Tent Project? Like, what do you think about community? How is it important? How does this project build that?
Sure. So, I mean, community is obviously, it's a really powerful notion. It's something which is a word that is used to describe a commonality, and hence the word common and unity within that word, which brings together that feeling of family, which I think was mentioned earlier. And that family feeling is that there are various members within your family who are younger, who are older, those who have gone through various experiences in their life, those who are young and inexperienced. And I think that community that we talk about effectively is a makeup of different ages and different backgrounds and different experiences as well. But it's also important to note that within a community, there are various communities. So that's also quite interesting. There are various different strands within a community group. And so for us, you know, at Ramadan Tent Project, we acknowledge and respect and, you know, recognize that there are more than one community, as it were, but rather communities. And in the spirit of Ramadan, of the themes of compassion and welcoming others and wanting to invite the other to come to learn a little bit about the month of Ramadan, and also open iftar in itself, the event where we invite people of all faiths and none to come together. It's a fascinating bridge between different faith and non-faith communities. And we've seen this in the past 8 years, which is an incredible testament to the wonderful and amazing group of volunteers that we've had since our very inception. And it's those volunteers who laid the foundations to build upon year in, year out, to have new volunteers and also volunteers who are recurring volunteers who've remained with us, to be part of this family. A family, you cannot sort of eject an individual from your family, right? Despite the long distance, the radio silence, they're still part of your family. And an RTP is a true embodiment of that. We have an open door policy. Many of our volunteers are volunteers who have remained or left and come back, or new volunteers as well. But irrespective of that, irrespective of what the status is, wherever you meet someone, and whenever that is, and wherever that may be around the world, and you say to them, have you been to a open iftar event? And they'll say yes. That family feeling and compassion and community relationship that we take so much pride on in bringing different communities together for the primary goal of better understanding is something which we often hear, and that sense of peacefulness and serenity, if you will, at the moment that people have when they're sat down together and about to have a meal. And one of the most beautiful things for me experienced during the year, during the past couple of years before the pandemic, is the ability that with a connector like food and with the holy month of Ramadan for 30 days, with these marathon of events, hosting everyone and anyone to come and attend. The most powerful thing is you arrive as a stranger, but you leave as a friend. And that could be a friend with RTP, that could be a friend with someone that you've met that very evening. It could be an acquaintance. And I've heard so many different testimonies of people attending our event purely to break their fast, but actually it becomes a deeper relationship where they want to come back for that community spirit. And that magic has been bottled and nurtured and taken care of year after year. And despite the pandemic and despite the challenges that we faced, this is now our second Ramadan under lockdown. And it's been very, very difficult, very, very difficult, especially for an organization like ours, where our flagship event is all about the in-person interaction. It's all about having people sat beside you, sat across you. It is about those smiles, those conversations, that mutual space of exchange and experiences. And to move that to a digital platform is incredibly challenging. The scent that you smell in the air, the smell of food, the sound of laughter, the warm breeze that you may get across in London, depending on if you're lucky or not, with how the weather is, the wetness from the rain and maybe some of it pouring through the tent as you're sat under it, the rush to get to the venue and the rush to go from the venue home or to your local mosque to catch the remaining prayers for the rest of the evening. All of that experience can become, incredibly artificial when it comes to the digital space. But what we've been able to do is very, very quickly learn from last year in a short space of time that the opportunity of engaging in discussion, so a mutual space of exchange and experiences, still remains the same for us. And so despite the challenges faced, and of course, despite the fact that we won't be able to experience the same experience as we would do in person, we still have kept that same mission of continuing to bring and bridge between different communities, to invite people from different backgrounds to engage in a more holistic understanding of what belonging means. And I think it's very important that when we talk about community, we must talk about belonging. We can't talk about community without talking about belonging, and we can't talk about belonging without having understood what a community is. Because our sense of belonging can only be truly achieved if we accept each other for who we are completely, and without a watered down version of the other, so to speak, but actually accepting people in their full understanding and their full pride of how they present themselves and are wish to be presented. And that's what we are really, really proud as an organization and of what we've been doing and what we have done, is that irrespective of what background you come from, you are welcome. And because in the true spirit of Islam, but in the true spirit of Ramadan as well, the whole basis of what we are trying to do is we take inspiration from the hadith of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, where he was asked by a companion, what are the most beloved acts in Islam? Or as a matter of fact, what is the most beloved act in Islam? And the Prophet, peace be upon him, responded and said, it is to greet and give peace, salam, to those you know and you do not know, and also to give food to those you know and do not know. And so that's an incredible value, which we have embedded within our DNA at RTP, and amongst all of our volunteers, amongst our guest speakers, amongst our even our attendees who've come a number of years, is that those two things you will see every single evening in Ramadan. You will see someone giving you salam, offering you peace, and you'll see someone offering you a meal, whether that's from us or actually through an intermediary with the person sat next to you. And so those are really, really powerful, simple, I would say, but very powerful connectors, which we really need to continue doing. And so we offer this space here that we have been doing for the past couple of years now. And I pray and I hope that next year we'll be able to organize and deliver in-person events where we can truly, experience in its raw physicality the beauty of interacting with one another, inshallah. But yes, I think now that we are towards the end of Ramadan, I think for me, what I wanted to do this evening was touch on how we can maintain that spirit of Ramadan, and how we can sort of take lessons from what we have gone through, and how we can sort of build upon that for the year ahead. Often when we speak about the holy month of Ramadan, we think of it as the 29 or 30 days. It's quite restrictive in that sense. I know some were talking a bit earlier about, when to take a day off for Eid. My advice is always go for the latter day, just to be sure, just in case if it is, because otherwise, even if it's Eid on the first day that you've missed, you can still catch up on all the amazing leftovers on day 2, plus the new feast as well. But I'd like to look at the word Eid in Arabic. Actually means to repeat. So it means to form a habitual action. And so it's quite interesting that comes straight after a period of a month where we've been doing the same act of fasting for give or take 30 days. This year is 30 days. And so that act of fasting for 30 days and introspection, and almost a training of our soul, of our desires, to fulfill ourselves with that spiritual sustenance and reflection and connection, but also reconnection with our Lord during this month is incredibly powerful. And this is why there's no month like it. This is the reason why Ramadan for me and for many is the best time of year. It is the time where you see people incredibly close to their Lord, very close and aware of the actions that are done, the way we speak with kindness and gentleness, and with compassion with one another. And so in this month and in these holiest of nights, which we have seen in the past 10 days, it is an opportunity for us to sort of maximize, but also try to reach the pinnacle of our faith and of our sort of commitment and conviction of our faith as well, in terms of wanting to please God and to be of service to Him, and to be of service to Him is, of course, to be of service to others in our community as well. And so that coincides with, of course, Eid al-Fitr, which the first day is tomorrow. And then, of course, we have the month of Shawwal. Now, one of the most interesting things is this rush sort of preparing ourselves for Ramadan. If you recall, we may have spoken about this before, and you probably have come across this in some literature, where before the month of Ramadan, we have Rajab and Sha'ban, and of course Ramadan. And these are the months which are spoken widely about how to prepare for Ramadan. And these are the months in which we should seek our preparations from, in preparation for Ramadan, to be able to maximize as much as possible. And so we use those months as a means for us to fast your day, to prepare, to train, as if you were training for the Olympics or any sporting competition, or even an exam, for example. You always sit those mock exams in advance. And similarly for Ramadan, we have Rajab and Sha'ban for that. And then when Ramadan arrives, we immerse ourselves completely in worship, and we try to get as much benefit as possible. Think of yourself as almost a dry sponge chucked into a bath full of water, and how much water you're able to soak and take from that. And with the month of Ramadan, that is precisely that. And imagine yourself now, you've been removed from the bathtub, and you are trying to maintain that moisture as much as possible until the next Ramadan, before it all dries up. And then hopefully we see the next Ramadan. And again, we're sort of chucked into the bathtub of water of God's mercy and compassion and wisdom in that sense. And so all of us sort of racing to fulfill this deep connection with our Lord and with this month, we find ourselves now in a position where we've come towards the end of Ramadan. So what have we learnt effectively from this month? How do we wish to envisage the next year of our life to be like? There is talk of the post-pandemic, and of course further restrictions being lifted, going back to the old normal. What does that look like these days? Do we still remember what the old normal was almost 2 years ago now? And what is the new normal as well? But one thing it is incredible for us to bear in mind is that at the end of Ramadan, although we have reached the end of a particular journey, actually it is the beginning of a new one. It's the beginning of a new chapter. And this is why it's very important. The Lord of Ramadan is the Lord of all months during the calendar year. And that's really important, that our relationship does not end at the last day of Ramadan, but actually continues beyond the month of Ramadan, and actually should prepare us to look ahead and actually be able to take on any of the challenges that we may face in life, or our different perspectives on how we view things, priorities, of the way we live, the way we work, and our family. All of those things should be taken into account. And so with the month of Ramadan coming to an end, this is a new chapter for us to begin and look at how we can sustain and maintain that level of faith, of iman, but also that best version of ourselves, which is in Ramadan. How do we maintain that? And so there are many practical ways of doing it. Again, the Prophet taught us that in the month of Shawwal, which is the month which is after Ramadan, is to fast the 6 days of Shawwal. And we know from various scholars who've mentioned that actually those who fast the 6 days of Shawwal after Ramadan is a sign that their Ramadan was actually accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So again, everyone tuning in, obviously have your break for Eid. You have to have your break. It is haram to fast on Eid, so it's very, very important that we make that clear. So enjoy Eid with your family. But when you're feasting, remember again, the point of Ramadan is not to go back to the old ways, but the point of Ramadan is to have that control of our nafs, of our soul, of our desires, right? We need to have that control and self-discipline, which is ultimately a key important lesson that we have learnt from Ramadan. How do we take those on board? Well, we will only know when we're presented with that situation, right? It's fine that we can talk about this now, but each of us will know whenever we are put through that particular situation or brought towards that junction in the future, we need to be ready and actually ask ourselves, how much in control am I, right? And actually, what have I learned from Ramadan? Am I able to sort of hold back and actually not dive in straight away into feasting, but actually remember and remind myself that actually I was able to endure, 16, 17 hours of fasting with no food and drink all day. So when I utter the words, I am hungry, in the future, maybe that word or that phrase should not be used loosely, for instance, right? It's almost a reminder that actually we were able to endure so much in the month of Ramadan, and a month of sacrifice. But of course, the month of Ramadan is not there to make us feel guilty for the rest of our lives. Of course not. It's a month of Eid, of a joyous occasion for us to celebrate with friends and family, safely, of course, under the current restrictions. But also, it's also important for us to be mindful of the very deep lessons from this month and how we can take those away, extract them, implement them into our daily lives, into our schema, into the way we think and make certain decisions. And so to offer us that extra level of perspection and allow us to actually maybe pause and not be rushed to judgment on certain decisions in life, and actually be able to take that step back, like Ramadan has given us that position and space to do so. And of course, the Prophet ﷺ says that be like the wayfarer, right, in this life. Be like the traveler. Our destination is not, and our destination is with God. Our destination is, as we have seen in Ramadan, to exercise and immerse ourselves in worship. For what purpose, right? To attain God consciousness, but then for what purpose? And so we ask ourselves those questions, that ultimately we are here to worship God and to be of service of Him, and albeit an extension of His message, that we want to be able to please Him, of course, for eternal pleasantries and paradise, inshallah. So again, very important that our belonging, which I mentioned earlier, the root word in Arabic for belonging is namuwa. The reason why I mention that is it's very interesting that in the English language, belonging almost refers to a belonging to a particular place or space or city or time even. So it's a fixed space or fixed variable, if you will. But actually, namuwa in Arabic is very interesting, because the root word of belonging in Arabic, namuwa, is to grow. It means growth. So perhaps maybe the question that we have been asking or trying to grapple with, this question of where do I belong, maybe we've not understood the very question itself before we've come to answer it. Perhaps maybe our understanding on the question of belonging is not to belong to a particular fixed variable or space or time, but rather our understanding and notion of belonging should be connected to this idea of expanding, of growing as individuals, and as a community, and of communities as well, to grow and expand and to learn. Hence why the key words for us, belonging and communities, is an integral part of the work that we have been doing at RTP, because we don't believe in a fixed state of knowledge, or a fixed state in terms of where we do our work. We've tried to expand. We've embraced innovation. We've embraced our creative expression. We've embraced the ability to use technology in today's climate, and how we can continue this conversation around belonging, around community. And there will be those that we may not agree with, and that's perfectly fine, because that's the way we live. That this is the verse from Surah Al-Hujurat in the Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we created you into different nations and tribes so that you may recognize one another, right? And not so that you could judge one another, but to recognize. And an important facet to recognizing one another is being able to understand the world from that person's perspective, right? It's incredibly important and powerful. When we talk about civic rights, for example, we talk about justice and liberty for all, and we talk about the importance of calling out any injustice that we may see. It's done from the understanding of putting myself in the situation of the other, and that's the only way we will be able to actually bridge build between different communities, to be able to understand and empathize, which is very, very important. Hence why our three-pronged theory of change or process is the very first is convening, connecting people. The second is bridge building. And the third is alleviating any misconceptions and developing greater understanding. And so that is a cyclical process which continues on and does not stop, because again, it's linked back to our understanding of belonging, that who I am now, who I was 4 years ago, and who I am, who I will be in 10 years' time, will be a different person. And naturally so, because if, of course, I embrace this philosophy of belonging, then we should all be growing and expanding this idea and sense of belonging. So I just like to finish with very, very quickly with a sort of hadith as well from the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, which talks about taking advantage of 5 before 5. And they are your youth before your old age, your health before your sickness, your wealth before your poverty, your free time before your busyness, and finally your life before your death. So those are the 5 important things that we should be taking heed of coming out of Ramadan now, looking at how we can maintain that spirit of Ramadan. Of course, you've got the 6 days of Shawwal fast. You've got the day of Arafah to look forward to, of course, which is the holiest day in the Islamic calendar. So we've just now come out of the holiest nights of the Islamic calendar, but we've got the holiest day to look forward to in Arafah, which of course then is followed by Eid al-Adha. And of course, like I mentioned to you, our ability to look at how we can implement the conversation where we've had around Ramadan, and obviously the best version of ourselves, and incorporating that in our decision making, in our thought processes, and in the way we view the world and understand the other as well.
I think that you said a lot of interesting things. I think one thing that one of our guests, Ustaz Shabir Hassan, said, I remember, was that Ramadan's actually a month that shows you what you can potentially be. So I definitely think that this month is this opportunity where you have like 30 unique nights, or 29, depending on how long it is, where you can be the best version, you can be the most charitable, most giving. And then after that, realize that you can always be that person outside of these 30 days. I definitely think, like, even in the group chat, a lot of people were discussing RTP and their experience in the iftars and whatnot. So my first question is, what inspired you to start RTP?
Well, I mean, it was back in 2013. I was a student at SOAS University. With a group of other students, we decided that we wanted to create a space, a third space, if we called it back then, an alternative third space which welcomed people who were international students, who were providing a home away from home feel for them during the month of Ramadan, or students who were not at home during the month of Ramadan, and also the homeless as well, reaching out to the homeless and welcoming them. Because again, if we are to talk about communities and belonging, we must also acknowledge the members of that community as well. So there are members of the community within the British Muslim community, or the British Jewish community, or the wider British public, and there are members within those communities which we should acknowledge and recognize. And so at RTP, when we first started off, we wanted to ensure that every person was given the right, the equal hospitality, irrespective of their social status, irrespective of what God do they believe in, or whether they not believe in God. At the end of the day, the human values here are an integral importance of being good to everyone, and those values extended beyond the walls of SOAS and beyond the front garden of SOAS to now grow and grow to amazing and historical events that we've organized as a team. Across the UK, across the world even, and also in some locations as well, in some of Britain's most loved iconic institutions and landmarks as well.
Yeah, I think that kind of that community spirit really does show in the live events and also the online events too. You also spoke about growth, like kind of viewing community as kind of this thing that you can grow from and change and evolve. How do you feel like the project's changed and evolved over time? And maybe your ideas as like the CEO has changed and evolved.
Well, I mean, Of course, I mean, look, there's obviously the professional role, and there's then obviously my personal relationship with RTP. I think they're two distinctive things. So, as a chief executive, I obviously have to play the executive role, which has its own responsibilities and duties, as any chief exec would have in any organization. A lot of that is around the vision, and obviously maintaining that vision for Ramadan 10 project, and obviously the mission. So ensuring that how do we achieve our mission in the most creative of ways, and obviously how do we ensure that we are sustainable, and how do we think of innovative partnerships, and how do we increase our reach and engagement. So a lot of that is strategic. A lot of that is, of course, how do we sort of look at Ramadan 10 project today. The organizers of the UK's largest cultural and community event, which is Open Iftar. How do we engage with people from different areas, and maybe areas of which are very difficult to get into as well? I mentioned this example where in 2019 we organized our very first Open Iftar in Newcastle, in Newcastle Gateshead to be precise. And this is a particular area in the northeast of England, which had a very high leave vote in their constituency. And so I'm referring here to the Brexit leave and remain votes. And the reason why I bring this up is because that may be a very difficult area for us to reach out and bridge, and actually be able to hold a community event about Ramadan, and with British Muslims involved as well, and particularly in the area which had a very high leave count. But we also want to have the difficult conversations, right? So for me personally, I suppose this is where my sort of personal inputs I add is I'm all for bridge building, and of course these strategic developments and engagements that we've been doing, and this amazing growth really in the past 8 years. But for me personally, I want to have not only the facile conversations but also the difficult ones as well, because I always truly believe that that's when we are able to reach a more truer and more realer, if I can say, genuine form of engagement and understanding of what belonging means. Without that, we won't be able to truly maximize or deliver on our diversity and inclusion and inequalities mission or targets, right? So we see quite an increase of D&I units within different companies and departments, but we want to go beyond the surface. We want to go beyond the events. We want to actually talk about a cultural shift, the mindset. How do we talk about Ramadan in Britain, for instance? One of the key challenges for us when we first started was how can we improve the experience and harness the experience, and maybe almost to sort of amplify the experience of Ramadan in this country. I mean, Ramadan in Britain is the third biggest economic occasion after Christmas and Easter. How many people knew that? And also Ramadan is the holiest month in the Islamic calendar, and for 30 days. And so it's a great opportunity to engage, as we actually covered in our Welcome Ramadan conference, the various different themes that we have. So in terms of spirituality, consumerism, culture plays an incredibly important part of our understanding of Ramadan. As I mentioned earlier, in the British Muslim community, we have various communities, right? So we talk about, communities from Europe, communities from the African continent, communities from the Asian continent, communities from the North and the South American continent, and from Central America, and so on. So I think it's really, really important that we appreciate the different cultures within the faith as well. So we are, for us, it's we look back over the years, what I hope has remained an integral part of who we are and what we've been doing is this idea of openness and wanting to share what is very holy to us with others in the month of Ramadan. And so I think you mentioned growth. That's exactly what RTP is all about. The idea of belonging is an integral part of our DNA. And we hope that year after year, we continue to fulfill this mission of bringing communities together to better understand each other, but also through bridging between one another and understanding that belonging to us is in practice a testament to the different cities we've gone out to the different partners we've engaged with, the different speakers that we've had, and we hope that will continue.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like on the kind of topic of having hard conversations over the month, I've had a lot of some of the events I've hosted, like we've discussed the Uyghur genocide, like fostering the Muslim community. And outside of that, we've discussed a lot of difficult things like social justice over the month. I definitely do think that RTP does try and acknowledge that there are different members of the community across the world, like the Muslim community and outside of that. My question is, how do you have those difficult conversations? Like, how do you build those communities and bridge those gaps, sorry, where people might not be so willing to have those conversations because they might be quite difficult?
Yeah, I mean, well, I suppose the sort of the important thing is you want to start from a position of values, and I think your principles and your values will guide you towards those natural partnerships with others who actually see the same vision that you're trying to reach and wanting to see in the world. Our vision is for a world where everyone belongs and we live in harmony. That sounds too good to be true, which is why it's a vision, right? We want to try to achieve the impossible. And in doing that through our mission is obviously by bringing different communities together to better understand each other. That's the only way we can do it. The only way for us to live in harmony and to live in a society where everyone belongs and lives in harmony is that there is understanding and there is education about the other. And so that's what we do. And so we naturally attract people and organizations, individuals or community groups who support this vision and mission. And of course, we actively go out to look at potential partners who we believe share the same values. And we propose to them, to look at means and ways of how we can work together. And so we've seen that incredibly with some of the amazing work. And again, the Arts Council is one of them who've actually acknowledged and recognized the work that we have done as a strategic partner for us. And of course, the Department for Culture, Media and Sports with the Culture Recovery Fund grant as well has been tremendous, which has allowed us to get back onto our feet and actually continue and be able to deliver these events. And look at how we can continue having this conversation around belonging, which is very, very important. The difficult conversations, I would say, intermediaries are involved for an introduction, where we can actually begin those small conversations. I think, again, trust is a very, very important factor, right? So in a world where, the force of separation and division is very, very strong, we want to show and power through that and actually say, well, the power and the force of community cohesion, of community integration, of bridging between different members of our communities is far stronger. And I truly believe that. And that's testament to, the 300,000 people that we have reached, right, in the past 8 years. It is testament to the fact that we have done events and partnerships with hundreds of different national and local organizations. And so we are always open to a constructive dialogue, and we'll continue to do so.
Yeah, I definitely think that it does show in your events, like kind of your ethos, this like kind of slightly utopian ethos of trying to build a community and that everybody can only live in harmony and peace if we understand each other. We've only got one more minute before the Azan. Do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, what I would like to say is I want to thank every single person who's tuned in, every single viewer, every single person who's liked something or retweeted something or supported us or even shared some of the stories and our posts in this month. I ask you all to please continue remembering us in your prayers. Again, a lot of the support that we get comes from the community. So your support really does help us to keep us going. And I was asked that within this, the last few minutes that we have of Ramadan, and of course, do not forget the power of dua is really, really important. So I pray for prosperity. I pray for peace. I pray for protection for us all as a community and across the world. I pray for us to come closer to God, to be more mindful of Him in our actions, and to be more mindful of who we are as individuals, and more mindful of our communities, more mindful of the nature that surrounds us, more mindful of the importance of right now bridging and reaching out to the other as well. And of course, you know, I would say thank you very much to everyone who's tuned in, to all of our partners, and thank you, Huda, and thank you to Raila and to Iman and to everyone else, and Adnan and Farah, who've done a phenomenal, tremendous job. So honestly, you are the true success stories. You are the true champions of RTP. You are all inspiring, you know, real models, not role models. You're real models, and I'm honored and really, really pleased to be part of this amazing and wonderful family.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair. I don't think this would have been possible if you hadn't actually founded RTP, and like that space wouldn't have been available. So the azan's actually going to be in 2 minutes, from what I understand. Sorry, that was a blunder for me. But I'd like to thank our speaker, Omar Salah, for the engaging speech. I think he's given us a lot to think about, a kind of about community and how we view community. I also want to thank Islam Channel, our media partner this year, and also Arts Council UK for making this event possible. You can read more about how we try to fight world hunger with Islamic relief at iruk.co/RTP. So Ramadan is a month of charity and giving, so we wanted to encourage you to support Ramadan Tent Project and help us continue our work. So your support is vital to keeping us going as the world transitions back to normalcy by helping us continue events like this one, bringing people from all around the world together, the Open Iftar, our Sunnah Fast and other projects. Please check out the link in the chat box. We'd appreciate any amount that you can give. Anything is beneficial, inshallah. You can donate at launchgood.com/RTP2021. And just have a minute before the azan so we could just reflect before the azan comes, inshallah. And Eid Mubarak to everybody.
اللهم إني لك صمت وبك آمنت وعلى رزقك أفطرت ذهب الظمأ وابتلت العروق وثبت الأجر إن شاء الله. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته إنك لا تخلف الميعاد.
So thanks for our guest speaker, Omar Salha, and thank you for everybody for tuning in and participating throughout the month. And thanks for volunteers. Inshallah, you will have an amazing Eid Mubarak and Assalamu alaikum.